Hello again, it's your internet dad, sharing life lessons that I offered my own sons in the hope that they will make your life a little easier. And don't forget, if you like what you see, subscribe to the series or share this link to a friend if you think it will help them. So today's talk about expensive watches is an exception to what I normally offer you, which is a way to look good for less. But perhaps you have dreams or expectations in the future of being a great success, and one of the measures of that might be an expensive watch. But remember, there is nothing wrong with a $10 watch in the interim. In fact, it may very well be more accurate as a quartz watch than many of the Swiss talk watches that I'm going to talk about today. Now, many people don't have watches at all these days. They rely on their smartphone for a watch. But for the rest of us, we start off by having three choices in the expensive watch category. It can be battery powered, can be self-winding, or it can be hand-wound, mechanical. Within those categories, there are thousands of choices. Now, I'm not talking about sports watches, keeping fit, aviation watches. I'm talking about dress watches that you would wear on your wrist, or a sports watch that you would wear in your normal activities. The top of the field of watches, of course, is dominated by the Swiss watch manufacturers in French-speaking Switzerland. And I have to apologize ahead of time because some of those names are quite unpronounceable French, but you can get the correct pronunciation on the internet if you wish. Those watches include Rolex, Piaget, and Longines, all of which I've owned over time. But one that I haven't is the old greatest grandfather of them all, the Breguet watch, that's B-R-E-G-U-E-T, which invented wristwatches, self-winding watches, and many mechanical advances that we use today. And they did it 250 years ago. Now, about 40 years ago, the Swiss fine watch industry was convulsed by the arrival of quartz watches. They were cheap, they were incredibly accurate, and they didn't have to have the immense masterpiece type construction that you associate with a fine watch. Many people thought the industry would actually fade away. But after a few years of confusion, the industry came roaring back, and today it's stronger than ever as an aspirational item to own. So much so that a lot of new manufacturers have sprung up, including the major fashion houses that put out their own version of the watch. But I'm going to concentrate on the major Swiss watches. Now, fashions and traditions change slowly in the business, but a recent development has been the so-called Portuguese watch. This was invented following the order of two Portuguese gentlemen in the 1930s for a wristwatch which was larger than normal. In fact, they asked that it be a lady's pocket watch put on a strap. It may look a little garish and clumsy to us today, and it wasn't very popular in the years that followed, but in the last 10 years or so it's become very popular. It's made by IMC, a Swiss manufacturer, and an exception to the French rule that the more expensive they are, the more difficult it is to pronounce, because IMC just stands for International Watch Company. And the reason why it's in English is because the factory was started 150 years ago by an American. And he sold chiefly into the United States market at that time, and now it's been very firmly established as a mark. Many people collect watches, dozens of them. I personally have only 3. I have a Piaget, which is very thin, and that, in my mind, is suitable for business or for formal occasions. I have a Rolex Explorer, which is decidedly more clunky, but has seen me through 3 combat tours, parachute jumps, falling off horses, and lots of other stuff, and after 50 years is still ticking. It may surprise you that my 3rd watch is a Timex. Oddly enough, or maybe not so oddly, it keeps better time actually than the Rolex, which is self-winding. But I have this watch if I go to the beach or somewhere really casual. Just don't wear the expensive watch in situations like that. Talking about theft, a very useful thing is to put your initials on the back of your watch. If it's an expensive watch, it's worth it. Get it engraved professionally. It may or may not prevent the watch being stolen, but it certainly will help the recovery if people find it, and you can prove ownership of it. Owning an expensive watch, as I said, is aspirational, but it's only worth it if it's fun to you, and some of them are incredibly beautiful. A peculiarity of my watches, and I don't know if you noticed it, is that the winding stem is on the wrong side. And that's something, if you're left-handed like me, that a watchmaker can do. They swivel the face of the watch around 180 degrees, and you'll find it much easier because lefties tend to wear it on their right wrist. These are the sort of things you can do, different watch bands, etc. But do remember, at the end of the day, that Timex still keeps good time. But if you have the aspiration, then don't forget, study hard, work hard, and there may be a Rolex in your future. Good luck.